you all. Faculty, Honorable President Meisels, trustees of the board, graduates, parents, and family members, this is your day. It's a great honor to share it with you. I've learned from your teachers and from some of your students. Much connects me with Erikson. Just a few years ago, I was fortunate enough to be invited by your founder, Barbara Bowman, and your infancy teacher, my dear friend, Linda Gilkison, to join their team on their mission to Shanghai in China, to bring to their Chinese and my Chinese now colleagues and their graduate students the importance of early childhood education and especially the importance of early emotional and affective development. This visit has led for me to an ongoing relationship with the first Chinese newborn intensive care nursery at Children's Hospital in Fudan, the nursery that now, after a number of visits, is in the process to transform the old model of task-oriented, hierarchically structured technical intensive care to becoming developmentally supportive for the many preterm-born infants and their families. They're just beginning to envision the possibility and opportunity of the revolutionary step to include the parents from admission in their infant's care. The Erikson mission in action at the forefront of change in cultural and human relationships in China. You all had the good sense to seek out Erikson for your graduate education. The degree you will receive today tells you that your teachers trust you to have what it takes to live up to the mission, the skill, and the knowledge that you've gained, as well as the growth within yourself that defines you all. You are capable of moving forward and to engage those around you, to believe in and identify the strengths in others. Of course, you'll be scared at times when you find yourself in the midst of those with other ideas, other opinions, other politics. You might feel inadequate, frustrated, even helpless. Yet when you think of your teachers, your role models, their trust in you and your trust in them, you will gain the courage to listen actively, to keep perspective, and to see what makes the other shine, to use a Linda Gilkison term. And then you'll speak in a way that will help the other person hear you and want to hear more. You've learned to hold in focused attention. You've learned the importance of active listening. And as you go forth, you'll continue to grow by everything you do. You've chosen the smart path. You have decided to go to the beginning of the stream before the children are thrown in. To paraphrase Irving Harris's famous image, rather than to go way down the stream when they're already drowning and you may no longer succeed in fishing them out and saving their lives. I want to share with you a few lessons that have helped me and continue to help me live my life. As you just heard, I began my path as a teacher of 28 third-grade boys in Germany. They shaped me, and they still keep me honest. Reinhard was a thin, pale boy with large blue eyes and a faint lisp. He was one of the two of the smartest boys in the class. He was there every morning very early. He sat in the first row, he laid out his pencils and colors, he laid out his books, and he followed my every move, ready for the first concentrated attention. The second one was Wolfgang, a tall boy with a spark of mischief in his eyes. Wolfgang sauntered in the last minute, always a joke on his lips. He slid into his seat in the last row, a big Karl May adventure book under his desk that he read at every 3 minutes, before I would call on him to help out another child, especially Herbert, a plump boy with palsied hands, too tight a grip on his pencil, trouble focusing with thick glasses, who tried so hard that every day when I watched him, it just about broke my heart. One day I asked Reinhard to move to the third row and trade his seat with Herbert so I would have him closer. Reinhard, of course, obliged immediately. But he was then very quiet the rest of the day, and he didn't come in the next day. And he didn't come in the second day. A note from his mother explained that he wasn't feeling well. So after school, I went by the bakery that the Rühr family had, and Mrs. Rühr was thankfully behind the counter, and she greeted me, and I asked her how Reinhard was doing, what was up with him. And she told me, he's just not himself. We don't know what's the matter. The doctor can't find anything specific. And then in a very low voice, she said to me, last night, he said, I'm now sitting in the third row. And suddenly it dawned on me, and clearly his mother had gathered this. It was much too hard for Reinhard to deal with this change. He required the structure and the focus that the first row gave him in order to do as well as he did. How could I have been so blind and so dense? I apologized immediately and of course told his mother that Reinhard will have his first row seat back. And sure enough, he came back the next day and everything was fine. Reinhard and Wolfgang, two very different children, both excellent students. Reinhard, so sensitive to his environment, required special attention and adaptation in order to thrive. Wolfgang, always on top of the world, enjoying all aspects that made opportunities for him and make them work for him. The experience of these two children has determined much of my later work, which looks at how children are shaped from the very beginning in the womb by their environments, and how they respond so differently to the expectation and the prejudices and the prohibitions around them, as Erikson first taught us. And I learned to observe much more closely. When I moved in 1964 to the US, I continued my studies of education, and through coursework with my professor then, Sandra Scar, who was an excellent mentor for me at the University of Pennsylvania, I became very interested in the study of human evolution and anthropology in order to be better equipped to understand the origins of individuality. Yet I, of course, had much too little money to follow this dream. And Sandra suggested I should just apply for a fellowship. I had never heard of such a thing. She taught me, when you meet an opportunity or a new challenge, you must go for it. When someone or somewhere an opportunity opens, just look inside yourself, take a deep breath, and say yes. You may be plagued by anxiety and doubt, yet as Linda Gilkison has taught me, it's productive anxiety. And the exhilaration you feel when you've come through will fuel you for that next leap. The lesson to jump and to say yes has stood me in good stead. That's also how I met my most influential mentor, Barry Brazelton, who is being honored here today, with whom I had the privilege to work for 10 years. I continue to learn from him to this day. In the late 60s, for my dissertation, I was searching the literature for an instrument that would quantify the newborn baby's individuality right after birth. Little did I know that didn't exist yet. Sandra told me, Sandra Scar that is, of a pediatrician who had been the pediatrician of her children and had taken care of them when she lived in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And she said, I think he's working on exactly what you're looking for. She just simply suggested, write to him. Again, with trepidations, I did. And he wrote back, why don't you come up in a week? My colleagues and I, and his colleagues for me were these big name personalities that I'd only read about in the literature, will try to hash out the final details of the scale, the Brazelton Neonatal Behavioral Assessment Scale, that is. I, by now, had learned some lessons and wrote for a travel stipend, which I got, and I went to Boston. And my life was set on its course for the next 40-some years. What if I hadn't gone to Boston? I just can't imagine it. Sooner or later, inevitably, in your life, there will be circumstances when you'll have to make a choice. If you compromise, things might go on as before. But if you stand by your conviction, if you risk being alone and give up the security of the familiar, you will take a next step. The most important thing is to follow your sense of yourself. Trust yourself. It will help you forge the path that's yours. Lesson 4, if you haven't kept track of the numbers. Stay humble. Your achievements will always be based on many other person's efforts and accomplishments. The phrase is very apt that we all stand on the shoulders of others. Sometimes, if we are fortunate to stand on the shoulders of giants, it allows us to see further and keep hold of a broader, bigger vision. I was fortunate to stand on the shoulders of such a giant, namely Barry. I'm very cognizant of it, and I consider myself very fortunate. And you all have the good fortune to stand on the shoulders of the giants that have fueled your education here at Erikson. The best reward for your teachers, as well as for your parents, is to see you, their children, their students, flourish and become fully yourselves, to fulfill your very own dreams and visions. You will live your life prospectively. You don't know what's ahead, but you'll tell it retrospectively to yourself, and sometimes in somewhat edited versions to others. Keep narrating. Keep weaving your story. Stay in touch with yourself. Reflect on what and where you have been. How and what you're doing will likely relate to your next steps. And don't worry when the pieces don't seem to fit smoothly, when there are disconnects and apparently ragged resets. New opportunities will open new sides of you. And suddenly you'll recognize, aha, that's what that was all about. Live your life to the fullest, enjoy the moment, and the picture of your life will continue to refine itself. Children and families everywhere, professionals and politicians will count on you. You will always be in the right place at the right time, which will always be the here and the now. Therefore, go with courage and go in beauty. Trust yourself and never avert your eyes. What exists deserves your gaze and the transformation that will be yours to bring about. You shape the future of America's children and the children around the world. You are the future. I would like to close with a poem, one of my favorite poems that has guided me and continues to do so, by Rainer Maria Rilke. I live my life in widening circles that reach out across the world. I may not complete this last one, but I will attempt it. I circle around God, around the ancient tower, and I circle for thousands of years. And I don't know yet, am I a falcon, a storm, or a great song? Godspeed, class of 2012.